Hey everybody! So today I'm going to talk some more about the Galactic Center. I want to preface this, like I preface all the Galactic Center videos, with I am not an expert on the Galactic Center. I have a lot of astrological knowledge. This is really more of a mystery, a curiosity, literally fucking with astrology when it comes to the Galactic Center. So I'm not claiming that I am universally right when it comes to this, or that I even know what I'm talking about, I guess. I also reserve the right for this to be wrong down the line, because it very well could be. Anyway, just want to start it out with that. So nobody can come back later and say, well, you said this, blah, 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 blah. You know. This is literally just fucking with astrology here. So in my last video that I made about the Galactic Center, I was talking about bringing the Galactic Center energy down to Earth, right? How would one bring this down to Earth in a way that makes sense? So I was looking at the science of this, right? And that roughly, this is probably more of a rough estimate, but the Galactic Center and the Galactic Anti-Center are opposite one another. The Galactic Center right now is at 27 degrees 3 minutes Sagittarius, and the Galactic Anti-Center is at 27 degrees 3 minutes Gemini. Okay, so they're opposite each other. Now, the Earth is closer to the Galactic Anti-Center than it is to the Galactic Center. To think about this mathematically, Earth is 2/3 of the way from the Galactic Center and 1/3 of the way from the Galactic Anti-Center. So, since you know those two are opposing each other on the natal chart wheel, I made a post last night about this, and I drew up this chart. Okay, so you've got then this is an example from my chart. So you've got the Galactic Center, the Galactic Anti-Center, and then you've got two spans of 180 degrees, right? Now, the idea that I have in my head right now, and this could change in time, but is that where that 2/3 and 1/3 meet, that's where stuff from the Galactic Center is able to come down to Earth. Now, I'm not implying that this is where Earth is in the natal chart or anything like that. Don't take it that way. Just, this is where, in the chart, this is where you can bring the ship that you're fed from the Galactic Center down to Earth in a way that makes sense here on Earth. Translating it, transmuting it in a way that makes sense here on Earth. Because I do think a lot of the stuff that people are fed from the Galactic Center are given, information that they're given. Things like that. First of all, it can come through really fast, right? And leave them just as quickly. But I also think some of it doesn't actually make sense in a way that we understand here on Earth. So if you're just being fed that information, this point, where this 2/3 and this 1/3 point meet, it's where you can actually, where somebody can actually make sense of this, of whatever they're getting from the Galactic Center. So I used a pretty big window here. Obviously that point, the actual exact point where this 2/3 point and 1/3 point meet up, this would be at, right now, 27 degrees 3 minutes of Aries, or 27 degrees 3 minutes of Leo. Those are the exact points as of right now, where the GC is and the GAC are right now. That's where those 1/3 and 2/3 points meet up right now. You'd want to look at your actual natal chart to figure out where that would be exactly for you in terms of your chart it won't be that much different, but if you wanted to be exact, pull the galactic center in your own chart and then treat the anti-center as if it's 180 degrees away. So I used a pretty big window of orb here, kind of like what we used when we cast the net on Reddit for the original questionnaire. And if you want to be a part of that still, feel free to reach out. We're happy to have you join us. It's never too late. But I cast a pretty wide net here. So I'm thinking anything from right now, from 17 degrees, 3 minutes Aries, to 7 degrees, 3 minutes of Taurus. 10 degrees on either side of that 27 degrees, 3 minutes Aries point, and the same thing in Leo. So anything from 17 degrees Leo to 7 degrees, 3 minutes of Virgo. Now, I think that will probably come in over time, but that's kind of the window of orb that I'm looking at as far as how to bring galactic center stuff down to Earth. So, in saying that, let me see how I want to say this next. Okay, so people, what you'd want to do, right? We have been focusing primarily on the conjunctions and the oppositions to the galactic center. Because both Natalie and I do think that, having something conjunct the galactic center, it probably does, it amplifies that planet, and it gives it, that planet is something that can receive anything that the galactic center wants to give it, right? Any sort of information or whatever is going to be received through that planet that's conjunct the galactic center, and even opposite it in some cases, though in a different way. But just because you're receiving information from the galactic center doesn't mean that you know what the fuck to do with it, right? The galactic center seems like it speaks a different language. Maybe it's like tones, like in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, or something. It could be anything, or a mathematical language. I don't know. Either way, the galactic center feels like it speaks a different language, so it has to be translated and brought down to Earth. That's where this point comes into play. So if you have a planet conjunct the galactic center, my thought process on this right now is that you can be given shit from the GC all day long, but if you maybe if you don't have something to a planet or your sun moon midpoint, or I would even throw Chiron in here, some other things, if you don't have something in your chart, and I'm not talking about like some random ass asteroid, this would need to be something, if we're talking asteroids, it probably needs to be a more major one. Really, it probably does. But if you don't have something within those windows of degree that I was talking about in Aries and in Leo, and then a little bit into Taurus and a little bit into Virgo, you might be getting fed shit from the GC all day long, but not be able to translate it into anything that makes any real sense here on Earth. That's kind of where I'm going with that. This may prove to be very, very, very wrong. I don't know. But that is kind of what I'm thinking about in my mind as I'm looking at this. So if you have a planet conjunct the galactic center, or you have a planet opposing the galactic center, or you have both, definitely look and see if you have a planet. And you'd want to look at where the exact GC is in your chart. Like the GC in my chart is at 26 Sagittarius 41, 26 degrees, 41 minutes of Sagittarius. Anti-center was at 26 degrees, 41 minutes of Gemini. You'd want to look to exactly where it is in your chart to find that 10 degree window on either side, applying or separating on either side of the GC. But see if you have any planets, something like the sun moon midpoint, Chiron, or whatever you might have, and see if you have something that falls in those windows of orb. And I would think that those planets or that point or that asteroid, if it's say Chiron, would be very, very, very important in being able to translate and transmute anything that you get from the GC, any information that you're fed, down into real life, down into Earth. I really do think that is probably the case as of right now. Now, this also begs the question of the trines, of just people that have trines, right? Because essentially these degrees, these windows of degree in Aries and Leo would be, for the most part, they would be trine the galactic center. So what does it mean when people don't have a conjunction there, right? Let's say they don't have a conjunction to the GC, they don't have an opposition to the GC, but they have a trine. That makes me, I don't know, I'm still thinking about that, but that kind of makes me think that they're able to translate and transmute shit from the galactic center. They are able to do this, but without the conjunction, without something like feeding it, like a planet actually receiving the information, it almost feels like it could be a hit or a miss as to if they do anything with it, or if they even know what they're translating or transmuting in the first place. Yeah, that's kind of where my mind is going right now. So definitely look and see if you have any planets just trine the GC, or if you've got planets conjunct the GC or conjunct the anti-center. See if you have any planets falling in those degrees that I mentioned, because I do think those planets or planet or sun moon midpoint or Chiron or whatever is probably very, very, very important to making sense of what you're fed from the GC. Now, of course, this would all depend on what house this is going on into. Like the areas of life that this comes out in most, that you're able to bring this down to earth most in. So you'd want to take that into account, obviously. But yeah, that's kind of where my mind is right now. And it's just really super interesting. So I'd love to hear any thoughts that anybody has on this. Their experience with having both trines and conjunctions, or trines and oppositions, or the opposition to the GC, or oppositions, conjunctions, and trines. I'd love to hear people's experiences with this. This was not one of the questions on the questionnaire about trines. At the time, we weren't as focused on it. We're still more focused on the conjunctions and the oppositions, but this does bring into the equation the trine aspect. It does bring this into the equation. And obviously, this goes without saying, really, but obviously the closer that whatever planet you might have in that window of orbs that I was talking about in Aries and Leo, obviously the closer they are to that exact 2/3 point, like in my chart, that would be at either 26 degrees 41 minutes of Aries, or 26 degrees 41 minutes of Leo. The closer that I have a planet to that exact 2/3 1/3 point in either place, or just one of them, the stronger I would think the ability to translate or transmute stuff from the GC would be. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. I'll link what I wrote about this, because I feel like this might actually translate better for some people through writing. So I do have a post about this. I'll link it here. If you want to copy and paste, if you're on Instagram, copy and paste the link to your browser, or if you're on YouTube, you should just be able to click it. But I'll post it. So if y'all want to actually read this, you can. Okay, well, I'm gonna get going. So if you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck with Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Abaturno Astrology on Instagram. If you want to subscribe to us on YouTube, you can find us by searching for Let's Fuck with Astrology. If you do the Reddit thing, you can join us over on the subreddit Let's Fuck with Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, you can go to letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. Okay, y'all. I'll see y'all later.